Guys, we are back with the Screen Team. We are doing horror films this go around. I've got a Guy with me, and we've already taken care of one of the biggest classics of all time, Halloween. We're moving on to another classic series called Hellraiser. And Guy, we got a guy with pins in his head. We got a magic box. We got all kinds. We've got cool makeup effects and tricks and stuff like that. Hellraiser. Yes. What was it that initially got you into this series?
Well, apart from the fact that I'm just a lifelong horror fan, I actually saw the movie first and then read the book. I'm a huge fan of Clive Barker. So I saw this movie written and directed by him in 1987, and then I went back and read The Hellbound Heart, which was his novella that he based the movie on. I got involved, and I've just been a fan ever since. I actually own every single one of them, including the crappy ones that were direct to DVD.
So tell us, I mean, is the book and the film close?
They're close. There is subtle differences and subtle changes. For example, Pinhead, which is the most iconic figure, as you can see, for the series. He actually was supposed to be very effeminate with a woman's voice. And obviously Doug Bradley isn't. But that was a change he made when casting, and ended up getting Doug Bradley, who, unbeknownst to him, became the franchise. Kind of the same way, talking about our last film and in Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Freddy became the franchise. It wasn't originally supposed to be that way. It was just a killer that Wes Craven dreamed up. It was just the leader of these demons called Cenobites that Clive Barker dreamed up. They weren't aware that this would become the franchise, and it did. It did.
Kind of took over everything. Let me tell you a few things that surprised me. This was the first time I'd ever seen Hellraiser, and I'd always known about the character, and he's iconic for sure. A few things that surprised me. One was the acting. The acting in this movie was pretty bad. But with that aside, it's horror. We're not expecting, Academy. The thing that really surprised me was I was expecting a lot more of Pinhead in this film, and he's in it for a few seconds in the beginning, and then you see him a lot more at the very end. But in the middle, it's about the family and what they're going through, right?
And that's actually kind of the whole crux of this is Pinhead was not supposed to be, like I said, the franchise. So, and later films where you see him throughout, you kind of get tainted on him. You need to just see him. He comes in all of his glory, talks about the flesh and suffering and pain and pleasure that he talks about, and then he goes away. That's what you need. You don't need more than that to leave a lasting impression. The whole story boils down to Frank, the character who escapes from the Cenobites and is rejuvenated and revitalized and coming through, and his relationship with the lead character played by Andrew Robinson's wife, Julia. They are a former item, and her helping him to completely escape, give him back his body, and what all that entails. It isn't until you really see the puzzle box reopened by Kirsten that you even get who the Cenobites are.
Right.
They're mentioned, they're talked about. It's kind of, the demons in whispers until you actually see them.
Yeah.
And once you do, then it's just, what it is, and that's, how it all boils down. But yeah, it's not supposed to be about Pinhead, so you're not going to see Pinhead.
I thought that was interesting. I was like, where's he at? He was in it, no, he's not. And some things that really, really caught my attention, whereas the special effects, but also the makeup and the practical effects. Some of the special effects were cool, some were cheesy. It's
87.
So, it is what it is.
Lots of big hair, lots of shoulder pads.
Exactly. But there were a lot of good, I thought, practical effects scenes that put me on edge. They scared me a little. Like, when you see Frank getting rejuvenated, it's a disgusting scene. It really is. But I thought it was well done.
Oh, yeah, especially considering the way they did that was, as you're seeing everything reconstitute, what they did is they had it made with gelatin and wax and just put it under a hairdryer and then ran the film in reverse.
Nice.
It's the old school way of doing it.
So creative, though, but it's cool.
It's the same thing they did for the face melting in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's an old school technique, but when done right, it is very effective. And I was a big fan of that. The makeup effects, to me, were very on point, especially when you see Pinhead, because they actually made the thinnest appliance that they possibly could of Doug Bradley's face and then just gouged in the holes and put the pins in.
Yeah.
So when it was cast, it was just his face with just carved in lines and pins in his head. Same thing with Butterball and Shatter, very, very practical effects, but very well done makeups. According to the MPAA, she was female Cenobite. Her actual name was Deep Throat, simply because the way it was split open and looked like female organs, but hers was also very well done because you have to really kind of pay attention. But as she's talking, you can actually see the vesicles moving.
Oh wow!
As she's talking,
I didn't notice that.
And it mainly boils down to the way the makeup was laying on her neck, that as she was talking, just the way her neck would move would make it move.
Yeah.
But it ended up being an unintentional, really kind of neat trick that ended up being revisited in subsequent films through other makeups.
I watched this at night. I watched it with my wife Sabrina, and
as you should.
And she fell asleep, so I got to watch the last 30 minutes by myself. And there was this when the main girl opens the box, she meets this creature that just kind of put me on edge. It was like almost like a two-faced creature with the head at the bottom, and I don't know what it was, but man, that thing was freaky.
Yeah, it was kind of like some kind of hellhound. It's described as a guardian. That's the only description that's given. So it was free reign and license, and apparently it's just something out of Clive Barker's nightmare.
Yeah, I can see.
It's just nightmare fuel.
This movie did its job. It put me on edge. It scared me. I'm assuming you've seen this movie many, many times. Does it still kind of give you an edge when you watch it, or are you just kind of like,
Not really, and it didn't even give me an edge when I first watched it, simply because I've seen so many horror films. I am completely desensitized. It takes a lot for me to actually get something scary.
So what is it then? Is it the art that you love, the way that these people make the scares, the way they make the costumes and the makeup?
That ultimately, what gets me is an engaging story. And if you really break down and look past the cheesy, hokey acting of this, the story actually is not bad. It's actually a really interesting story that, there's nothing new. Every story has been told, but this was taking the escaped prisoner concept into a very interesting and new direction.
Yeah.
And I firmly think it's one of Clive Barker's better, if not best, films.
How many of the Hellraisers did he do?
Don't quote me on this. I believe he did the first two. I think he did Hellraiser and then Hellbound Hellraiser 2. After that, the reins were turned over, and that's also when Pinhead became the subsequent figurehead and poster boy for the entire franchise. But I believe the first two were Clive Barker's alone, and you can tell his style versus someone else's when they take over. So, I mean, it's exactly what you want in a creepy gore house film. It delivers on a lot of levels in terms of what exactly it wants to tell.
Mm-hmm.
It's not perfect by any means, but it really gives you what you're looking for in terms of a first-time horror film. If you're just doing something, everybody knows Pinhead, but it's the same as Halloween. Everybody knows Michael Myers,
Yeah.
but your first introduction to him in the first film, if you've never watched it before, is a very, very unique experience, because you can know him by proxy, but until you actually sit there and watch it, you don't know him.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah. Movie is called Hellraiser, and of course you can find it on DVD. Coming up after the break, we're going to review a movie and a character that gave me nightmares when I was little, and even today. We're talking about Freddy Krueger and the movie, what's it called?
Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Wes Craven's
it's
New
the
Nightmare.
7th in the series.
We'll get to that next right here on KWOC.